Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Lindsey series. This is one of the 9 districts of Lincolnshire and one of the county's most rural. It has 128 civil parishes. Let's see which one this episode's all about. Welcome back to West Lindsey, everybody. Now, last week you saw me take on the northern twin to this village. This one's a bit different. Very much different, actually, in a lot of ways. But in some ways, it's virtually the same, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't make sense, but it does to me. I know what I'm talking about. This is South Carlton. The West Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop, located at 20 Ropery Road or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. And this video is also sponsored by Jamie's Fitness Studio, based on Low Road, Graham, near Curtin in Lindsey. Jamie is one busy lady. Check her out by calling 07906 749 574 or emailing hello@jamies.co.uk. Online membership is available. There's a link to her Facebook page in the description. Jamie's Fitness Studio. Get fit, get happy, get healthy. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to the second of the 2 Carlton twins, located just below the Lincoln Cliff off the B1398 in West Lindsey. This is South Carlton, the larger of the 2, which lies on a dead-end road. South Carlton is approximately 2 miles away from Lincoln. Its population figure includes that of nearby Broxholme, even though there's no direct road between the 2 villages. This is a village which has a varied past. Much like other places in this part of West Lindsey, the Monson family were heavily associated with it, and it's the final resting place for some of them. In its church, dedicated to St. John the Baptist, is the biggest and most important of those resting places, the impressive marble tomb of Sir John and Lady Jane Monson, built in 1625. The Monsons left their mark all over this village. While South Carlton no longer has a school, it used to have the Monson Free School, founded by the family in 1678. That's on our route. During World War I, South Carlton had an airfield as well, which only lasted for 4 years. There's no trace of it today, but by all accounts it was fairly large, complete with living quarters and hangars. This is a nice circular walk around another tiny Lincolnshire village, one that's happy to mind its own business these days in the quiet and peaceful vale in which it sits, despite being close to a busy city. It's South Carlton, guys. Let's go for another wander. We begin our trip around South Carlton where we left off last week. This time we're driving down the Lincoln Cliff into the village. In case anyone was wondering, yes, I did take that corner wrongly. I did it on purpose so you could see the bus shelter better. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. You can catch a bus at that shelter. It's served by the number 354, which connects Lincoln to Gainsborough. It's the only stop in South Carlton. And of course, this road is running down the Lincoln Cliff. Like North Carlton, the village lies at the foot of the cliff, although the major difference between the two is that South Carlton is a dead end. The village is laid out in a circular fashion, although if you look at the map it's more of a misshapen square. The village consists of lots of picturesque cottages, stone terraces and farm buildings. It's always been reliant on farming given the swathe of arable land surrounding it. Okay, so we are parked and we are ready to explore South Carlton. Now this is the only circular route I've got out here today. Everything else is linear, so this one should be the easiest of the 5 I'm attempting. Let's see if it is. There's some interesting bits and bobs in South Carlton, so let's go. This is an unnamed road which leads to School Lane, a quiet and peaceful lane these days. However, during World War I things were a little different. That's thanks to South Carlton Airfield, which opened in 1916 and closed in 1920. Number 69 Squadron of the Australian Flying Corps were based at it. It consisted of 7 large canvas and brick hangars, wooden living quarters and offices. It was equipped with AV-504, Camel and Dolphin aircraft. Now we're on School Lane, and the building in front of us was the Monson Free School, which dates from 1876. It's now closed. The school building is not the original. It was founded way back in 1678 by the Monson family. A nearby stone marks the date of the original building. Next door is the school house. That's this cottage in shot now. Keep the Monson name in mind, it'll become important again a little further around our route. Okay, we're about halfway round. It's another small place this. It's a bit bigger than North Carlton, but still quite a small village, and a very delightful one too. Better if the sun was out, you could see it in all its glory. But yeah, we're about halfway around. So if you think of South Carlton as like a square with rounded edges, I suppose, we've completed 2 sides of it, and now we're going to complete the other 2 sides by going up here past the phone box and heading towards the church. After a right turn, we're on an unnamed road again, which will complete the circuit of the village. On it we find the old red phone box. It's empty though, this one, unlike its brother in North Carlton. South Carlton's church is dedicated to St John the Baptist, and it's a Grade 1 listed building dating from the 12th century originally, although it has later alterations. Many of those were carried out in the 18th and 19th centuries. It was almost entirely rebuilt in 1859, mostly by Samuel Sanders Toylon. Pevsner describes it as having an unpromising exterior. However, I quite like this church for reasons that will become apparent when we go inside. Up on the wall of the tower is a lovely wooden sundial. Once inside, if you look up, you'll spot more than a few of these coats of arms dotted around. I'd imagine some of these relate to the Monson family. There are a few interesting tablets and memorials around the walls too, but what we've really come to see in this place is what you'll find in the chancel. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest feature inside this church is this. That there is the tomb of Sir John and Lady Monson. Let's have a little talk about them. Behind these wrought iron railings is the large alabaster and marble tomb of Sir John Monson and his wife, Lady Jane Monson. Sir John died in 1593, and his wife outlived him by a further 32 years. Upon her death in 1625, the architect Nicholas Stone created this tomb. Their son was Sir Thomas Monson, who was an English politician and at one time the High Sheriff of Lincolnshire. He too is buried in South Carlton. The Monson family also have a mausoleum, which was built in 1851, containing a monument to the 6th Lord Monson, who lived between 1796 and 1862. However, where that's located, I have no idea. Little is known of Sir John Monson, but he too was Sheriff of Lincolnshire and was knighted in 1586. His grandfather, William, was married to Elizabeth Tyrwhitt. That means at one time, two of the most powerful families in Lincolnshire were connected via marriage. And once out of the church, it's a left turn, and there's not a lot left now, just basically the last side of the square. There's a bit of a bump in it, it's not straight, it's kind of goes like this and then turns right. And that will take us back to the car and to the beginning again, and that will be South Carlton. Both the Carlton twins completed. There's a few more bits of interest on the way back to the start. Yes, that was another Victorian postbox you've just seen in the last shot. There's also not just one, but two ponds along this road as well, although I'm not wholly convinced the second one is meant to be one in truth. Other than them, there's a handful of scattered properties, and big ones at that. Here's the second pond, complete with South Carlton's resident duck population. Even though there are some big impressive houses here, arguably the most important one no longer stands. That would be the Manor House, the home of the Monson family. They were, for a long time, the sole owners of this parish. The date of its demolition is sketchy, but according to Januki, it was taken down sometime before 1912. When you hit this little triangle of grass, a right turn takes you back to the start, whilst turning left leads up the Lincoln Cliff. Nice village all in all. And there you go, that is South Carlton. We have completed the little square, if you like, around the village. I just noticed this patch of ice here. Of course, it's not terribly cold today, it's not in the minus figures. But there are still some patches of ice here and there, and of course, with this place being out of the way, it's not a place that gets gritted, or if it does get gritted, it's not by the council, it'll be by the locals spreading grit from grit buckets. And of course, ice still lingers in these areas. You know, it doesn't melt away as quickly, especially when it's sheltered by trees. I imagine it's quite difficult in the ice and snow to drive down into South Carlton. I don't think I've ever done it before. So yeah, maybe that's a hazard of living here. I don't know, possibly. Anyway, that is South Carlton, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out. Oh, and just before I leave South Carlton behind, I came up here to get the village sign that you see in the thumbnail, and I thought to myself, I haven't filmed any views of the Lincoln Cliff from Scampton or from North Carlton or from here in South Carlton, so I'll just show you the view you can see from the Lincoln Cliff up here. Look at this. Isn't this magnificent? Absolutely fantastic. I love Lincolnshire.